Okay.
I wanted to check my text message.
Hello and welcome to Post Credit Shit Show, episode 1?
Volume 1.
Volume 1. I'm George.
I'm Dylan.
We watch movies and we talk about them. Probably shit on them a bit.
Yeah. We're about to.
Well, maybe. No spoilers. So the first movie we watched is Crimewave. That's what we fucking call it. It's called.
Crimewave, 1985, Sam Raimi.
Yeah, directed by Sam Raimi, written by him and the Coen brothers. And you can really tell.
It's it's weird too, because you can see some of the the Coen brothers have always got a weird and wacky cast of characters.
Mm-hmm.
Not too crazy, but you can see the Venn diagram where it's not just entirely a Sam Raimi picture, but it's also got the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
And it's just one weird scene after another.
Well, you described it really well. It feels like a Looney Tunes or like a Tex Avery cartoon.
Yeah, it felt like a Tex Avery cartoon that they tried to shoot with real people.
And some of it works.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's definitely a movie that you watch with other people. I don't know anybody that would be able to watch this by themselves because.
So,
I mean, personally, myself, I probably would have turned it off a quarter of the way through.
I don't think I would have, because it's just one of those things where it's what the fuck's gonna happen? Where are they going with this?
They treat I don't know. It's the way they wrap up storylines in this movie. The wife of the one guy who was accidentally murdered.
She just gets shipped off in a box by accident and just disappears.
Yeah, she escapes from...
She's written out of the film.
Yeah, literally, just written out of the film. And she didn't die. She hops over a fence to escape her attacker, and she lands in a box, and they put a lid on it, and they stamp, first class Uruguay.
Yeah.
And then you never see her again. That's it.
Bruce Campbell's character just, disappears as well.
Yeah, he gets hit in the head by the fire escape, and then he's gone. He's out of the film.
So we should just... Okay, so, I believe this came out... if my timeline's correct, Sam Raimi did The Evil Dead,
1981, 82?
And I think
This is 1986.
this was an idea of a film he wanted to do afterwards, because Evil Dead got, pretty popular with everyone. It became a bit of a cult hit.
That's what,
at the time.
Yeah, it put them on the map.
Mm-hmm. So he came up with this idea, and I think the original intention was to do Alfred Hitchcock-esque kind of movie in his style. And you can definitely see that in a lot of the way the shots are done. I was getting a lot of Vertigo vibes.
Yeah, he was definitely
little nods
using...
to things like Rear View.
Rear Window, yeah.
Window.
You can see the inspiration, he wanted to do a Alfred Hitchcock kind of film.
Mm-hmm.
But not 100% like that, because when the guy's falling out of the building and you've got the close-up of his reflection in the glass and whatnot, he hits the ground in front of it. He's got a lot of really decent shot compositions and some scene transitions in the film.
Mm-hmm. A lot of really good ones.
Yeah,
it's a good-looking movie,
especially with the lighting. You got the scene where I don't know if this guy, I don't know what his name is, but he's standing there and he's like, "Lady, you haven't seen anything yet." And there's the blue on one side and the red, and there's a lot of really nice color lighting.
Yeah, I made a joke, but the lighting in this movie reminded me of Creepshow. The way they try to emulate an EC Comics vibe.
Yeah.
And you got a lot of blues and reds and stuff just all over the place. It's this looks really great.
Yeah, there's a lot of and when they're at the club and Vic and Nancy are at the tables. Mm-hmm. Bruce Campbell's lit in a very nice a pink light and whatnot.
Yeah.
So the setting of that reminded me of Tex Avery because it's very comical.
Oh yeah, the club scene, absolutely.
Yeah, the dog in the car in the coattails, and he's doing
kind of in The Mask, where it's where they make a joke of that. Okay, we should describe the plot because right now we're kind of the movie's all over the place.
Yeah, the movie is incredibly all over the place. That's the tough part. It's just one.
So yeah, like he did The Evil Dead, and this is something he wanted to do for a while. I forget what it was originally going to be called, but he couldn't get anyone to pick up the script, so they did Evil Dead 2, and then like studios wanted to do something with them, and this is what kind of came out of it. Mm-hmm. And he had the Coen brothers help fix up the script for him that he had like rough draft.
I'd hate to see what the rough draft is like if if the Coen brothers touched it up and this is what came out of it. I'd hate to see the original.
It's weird too because like you're watching, it's like this feels like a Coen's brother movie from the writing perspective, but looks like a Raimi film.
Yeah, once it's one of those movies where you're watching it, you can definitely pick up the hints of the Coen brothers, but you can also pick out the Sam Raimi with like some of the scenes, the terrible green screen when they're fighting on the cars and whatnot, and then you see the credits. It's written by the Coen brothers
and Sam Raimi,
and you're just like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so they did this movie. Let's describe the plot because I think like that will give at least some sort of baseline.
It starts with a man in jail, and he's claiming that he's been wrongfully accused. He's going to take the fall for something he didn't do. Mm-hmm. And then
this is Vic, by the way, our main character,
played by, I'm going to assume it is I don't know. Other than
it doesn't say the names on the back, does it?
It does. It doesn't tell me who. Zany Cameo, Reed Birney.
That sounds right.
I'm going to assume it's Reed Birney.
So, Vic's character, he's in jail. He's been wrongfully accused, and he's going to be going to the execution chair, or the electric chair.
Yes.
And he's like, you just got to find Nancy. She'll tell you. And then this is kind of where we get, like, a bit of, like, exposition leading into it. And from behind the scenes perspective, apparently this was like shot to kind of help bookend the entire movie because before the prison scene didn't exist for both the beginning and the end of the films.
Really?
In the original film, it was just like everything that was in between. So the studio's like
purely incomprehensible because even knowing
that's what the studio thought. So that's why they had it.
Even knowing full well that the whole movie is a flashback to what happened before the guy got to the jail cell. Mm-hmm. It's still incomprehensible because it's just one loud, boisterous scene after another.
So this kicks off to the flashback where we meet Vic proper, who's like some sort of security guard for a building. Mm-hmm. Someone who lives in there works at a business across the street. This is going to be really confusing, by the way. Works at a security office across the street.
Yeah.
And he hires 2 exterminators to kill off his partner so he could sell the business, I think, to make money. Something to that degree. The exterminators accidentally kill both the person who hired them and the person they were supposed to kill. And then they have to kill people who witnessed them murdering these 2 people.
Which is... the wife witnessed it.
The wife.
Because she lives across the apartment building. She watched it happen.
And also, I guess, I don't know who... the other guy that had, like, the shaving cream all over him. I don't know if he was just, like, a tenant or, like...
He was just a random tenant that came in and noticed something was happening.
This is going to sound really confusing. Meanwhile...
Characters just enter and exit the film.
Meanwhile, Vic is trying to hook up with this girl named Nancy, who is more interested in Bruce Campbell's character, who's Ricardo?
I think his name, Ricardo.
Ricardo or Riccio or something like that. So they go over to a club while, like, all this murder is fucking happening outside the club. The club happens to be also right the fuck across the street.
Yeah, this is all... it's like one of those... it's like a 4-way intersection, and on every corner there's a random business, and they're all interconnected. So it's all happening like a stone's throw away from each other.
It's so fucking weird, but it's like sure.
The paths cross.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those movies that's really difficult to describe to somebody who's never seen it before.
It is so hard to describe.
I just watched it. We watched it. We finished, we're still paused on the credits. And we're having the damnedest time describing it because it's like a slideshow. And all the slides are in different order. It's It's wild.
It's just because so many things happen, and it's like, okay, what's the most important thing? It's like kind of everything is in order to like get a through line of what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
So, Nancy and Vic leave the club after some hijinks happen there.
Yep.
And then they go back to her apartment in the building, and they get entangled into the plot with the exterminators who are murdering people.
Purely by Nancy and Vic get intertwined because Vic works for the guy setting up security cameras, so he's connected that way. But also, one of the guys that's the exterminators is trying to hide from, like, he's got the dead body of the black guy.
No, he doesn't. He left it in the elevator.
That's
remember?
right. Well, he was trying to like escape from the cops, so he left the body in the elevator and he snuck into Nancy's apartment. And so that's how they both connect, because the man's wife who owns the building or the business who died lives literally across the hall from the guy that works for him that he's trying to pair. It's so fucking confusing.
Okay, so like from there, we're skipping over a little bit here, but from there, the exterminators take Nancy, or like they go to chase Nancy because I guess she knows things or something like that. She's a witness, so they have to get rid of her.
Purely because he walked in on her because he was hiding. She didn't see anything. She didn't know anything that was happening.
So fucking...
It was purely because he ducked into her apartment to get away.
And then we get what felt like about a 10-20 minute car chase where like a lot happens.
It must have been a good 15 minutes because at the end of it, when they finally crash, I stopped and I went, that went on for 15 minutes. It was a solid 15 minute.
And then there is like a sword duel between Vic and one of the exterminators, and they're both using like pieces of like giant metal, and they're just like slashing at each other with it. Sparks are flying.
Yeah, they were. He was using like the back end of like the fender.
Yeah,
and the other guy was using like this crashed lamppost, and they were like dueling back and forth while the car teetered perilously over the edge
a great
of the
set
bridge.
piece, I will say, for a fight. And then like. So the exterminator falls into the river. Car falls on top of him. Nancy and Vic get out fine, but then Vic falls off. And then like it cuts back to the prison scene, and he's just like, Nancy will tell you the truth. Nancy arrives with a bunch of nuns.
Oh yeah, because that's how the film starts. It starts with a bunch of nuns speeding through the city.
Yes.
They're like breaking all the laws, and they're just driving through the city and
making every right turn.
Yeah, they're just driving in a giant circle essentially, and
then like they get there, they stop the execution like at the last second,
and we don't see the nuns until the very end of the movie. Mm-hmm. It just like, oh yeah, right, about the nuns. It was. I'm trying to see if I can find.
And then like everyone lives happily ever after.
Yeah.
That's about the most coherent way to describe the film in its plot.
Yeah, because originally the original title of the film was Relentless, and that makes sense because it's just an assault on the senses. The characters never stop making noise.
There's like so many cartoonish noises that play like all over the place.
The one guy's got like a
the voice. So the exterminators.
Like this.
There are two exterminators,
Yeah.
Arthur, and I think the other guy's name is Crush because it's showing right there.
Yeah,
that sounds like a name. Crush sounds like Dr. Teeth from the Muppets.
Yeah, sounds like this. But that's not like an occasional voice. He's doing that the entire movie. Whenever he's talking, it's just
a lot. Hey, lady.
Yeah, like whenever he's like opening doors or anything, he's constantly doing like a noise.
And then like the other guy, Arthur, has like the very Weasley voice, like.
Yeah, and it's and they're never not making noise. They're constantly going.
The weird thing is, wasn't annoying.
I mean, maybe not for you.
I didn't think it was annoying, but also we were making fun of it. So.
Yeah, but I also like I had trouble like they were talking to each other and There's a scene where he's like covering Nancy's mouth, trying to hide, like keep her from talking, and he's like, "Oh, my mother used to," and he went on like this diatribe.
I couldn't understand that.
And I got like the first 6 words, and it was just like, I'm like, what the hell is he
I will
saying?
say, so like the scene that he's talking about is like, there's when he's inside Nancy's apartment and he like steals Nancy into the bathroom, closes the door, and like tries to like get Vic to leave. There's a moment where he's like, oh, now he's gonna say like this and this, and then like he immediately says it. It's like, oh, that's kind of funny, like it's word for word.
He's laying there and he goes, you know, I don't know many girls, and then it cuts to him and he's standing there and he's just like, you know, Nancy, I don't know many girls, and he's just like calling out what the guy's gonna say.
And I was thinking like I would do the same thing because I'm just so like snarky like that, where I'd be like, oh, I bet you're gonna say this now.
Yeah, he's clearly that trope of character, and it's yeah.
I think like there are a lot of really good like little bits in it, but just like
the scene where he's like pulling the carpet.
So Dr. Teeth. That's what I'm calling him now.
Dr. Teeth.
Dr. Teeth. He's trying to get like this other the wife of the one of the guys who he killed. And like he goes in the apartment and it's just like, oh, I'm gonna get you. And he like digs his like hands into like the carpet and just starts like pulling it.
He's pulling the entire apartment.
The entire apartment with the carpet, and it is like the funniest fucking thing to see.
It's just
it's so like
it's a
cartoonish.
Tex Avery cartoon. It's exactly what that was. It's entirely a Warner Brothers cartoon. It's the wildest thing, and it's just
some of it works, some of it doesn't. It's like a weird mishmashy mess.
I can see why it has a cult film status, but it's just so weird. It really is ridiculous.
It is. I don't think like I've seen anything kind of like it. I've seen a lot of movies, none of them gets like weird like that.
It's definitely an 80s film.
Yeah.
100%. But it's one of those movies where you kind of got to pull out a piece of paper and start making notes on like who's who, what's happening, because even reading a synopsis, it's really difficult to pick out what's happening and when.
Well, we had trouble trying to create like a cohesive plot to describe it. Not many movies do that.
No, it felt like a movie where they were writing it as they were shooting it. Like they had an idea for a scene, because there's so many scenes that just, they're like, oh, here we are, there's this thing happening, and then they're somewhere else now, and they just like forget about that scene.
Yeah.
It jumps immediately to something else.
It's not until I would say that Vic and Nancy kind of get pulled into the exterminators like thing does it become more like linear, and there isn't like a bunch of jumping around. But even then, it's still like, what the fuck?
They take a lot of liberties with the structure and the pacing, because the pacing for the film is just, it's all over the place at the start, and then there's a solid, like the only time it takes place in a single kind of area in a sense is when they're doing the car chase. Now, technically the car chase is going through the highway. It's going over, it starts at location A, ends at location B, but the cameras, they're always on the cars, like they're doing like Indiana Jones, like jumping from back and forth and whatnot. They're still contained within the cars or on the cars, and while it's still going. And that's like the only time in this movie where the characters are just like in one location in a sense, and they don't stop. Like all the other, it's there's the jail and the nuns going through the city, and then there's the front of the hotel building, then there's the kitchen, and
security office,
the
club,
the broom closet, the hallway, the elevator, and there's so much shit just constantly happening. And then there's just like, oh, it's all grounded in one segment. It's slapstick, it's weird, it doesn't sit still.
I'm trying to determine if this is like a guilty pleasure, because like it's not 100% bad, but it's not 100% good either. It's like below like okay.
It's definitely a cult status.
Oh, for sure.
This is one of those movies where you'll find a handful of people that really like it, but a general audience will.
I will say this: I like it more than The Room, as far as cult movies go.
Yeah, because I mean, as bad as this movie is, there's still some kind of structure to it. And of course, the Coen brothers and Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell.
It is so weird. Like, it's like the best of like so many things. It's like, yeah, I love Sam Raimi. Yeah, I love the Coen brothers. Fucking Bruce Campbell's awesome. It's like, wait, what? How did we get this movie?
Yeah. Yeah, you're just like, oh man, I love Kubrick and whatnot. Yeah, but he still tried to do AI. So just because like these people have a track record now, I can totally, because
don't forget, this is like so early, and I believe both of their careers at this point, because I think the
Yeah.
Coen brothers had done 2 movies at this point.
Oh, Robert Tapert, yeah. After the success of their cult hit The Evil Dead, producer Robert Tapert and director Sam Raimi made Crimewave their next feature film. Also with leading man Bruce Campbell.
Okay, so this was his second film, and then he did Evil Dead afterwards to try and recover some goodwill from people.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
And then this...
Because it bombed when it came out.
Oh,
100%.
I fully believe it. I 100% believe it.
This is one of those things where it's just like the studio was trying to like fix it because it was a mess. It went over budget. I know that. People got injured on set.
This is one of those things where somebody would tell me the movie's not bad due to a studio interfering, trying to put more like hands in the pie. The studio was trying to salvage it. Mm-hmm. And I think if we got the original cut, because apparently the Coen brothers tried to tidy up the script, I have no idea what the original script would have looked like. Like seeing it now after their treatment,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would ever be able to watch what Sam Raimi did on his own.
Well, that's why
beforehand.
that's why he probably brought the Coens in, because like, oh, this is kind of like up their alley, because it kind of does sound like a Coen's brother like concept.
It did remind me a little bit of Barton Fink.
Yeah,
which makes sense, but yeah, I don't know.
It's so weird. It's
very weird.
Just kind of going over a few other like bits that I think were really great. There's like in the security office where like she's going through all the doors, and like then she pushes them, and like he's running away from like the collapsing like walls.
Yeah, some of those were
like
pretty
there's
cool.
like some silly slapsticky stuff. Like, oh, we gotta win the dancing contest so we can pay her $36 bill.
Yeah.
And then like immediately like they start dancing, and then it cuts to them like washing dishes.
Yeah,
It's like, that's
like,
great.
There's like a hard cut, and he's in the same position, but now he's like wearing like plastic gloves, and he's scrubbing a plate, and I went...
And he's still dancing with
and like they clearly lost the contest, so instead of like winning the $36 to pay for their dinner, they lost, and now they gotta do dishes.
It's like there's like so many moments like that in the movie where it's like, this is great, and then like it kind of I think just like the bizarrety of like the whole thing built together is kind of like offsetting a little bit.
It in a sense, in a weird way, it feels like it's like, I guess
if you were to go on YouTube and you're like, Crimewave, out of context clips, this would seem like the best fucking movie ever.
Yeah,
because you get like...
You could watch... I could put this movie on for you, and we could start like 10 minutes in, and then skip to 45 minutes in, and you'd think that you were watching something completely different.
Yes.
It's the pacing's wild, it's all over the place. You could jump to any point in the movie, and suddenly you get up, go to the bathroom, don't pause the movie, come back, and you're watching a completely different movie because there's somewhere else and some other wacky shit's happening at that point in time.
Yes.
It's it is pretty wild.
It's definitely one of those movies where it's like, meet a new person, they gotta see this now.
Yeah, like
it's up there with like Ben and Arthur and
oh god,
The House of Seven Corpses.
Oh yeah,
Zizek Road.
House of Seven.
I don't know. Actually, no, not
Corpses.
Zizek Road. I can't torture someone with that.
Yeah, House of Seven Corpses is actually great though. That one's on.
But it's one of those things where it's like you have to show people this. This is.
Yeah.
No one would ever look for this on their own.
No, this was like, oh wow, I didn't know this existed. I'm like, yeah, because they try to bury it. Try to bury your shame. Yeah, it's when the word bizarre, it's 100% correct.
Would you recommend people watch this movie?
This is for the schlocky.
I would 100% recommend someone see this. This is
not for the mainstream people that are looking for a good time. If people are familiar,
if you know what
with
you're
Sam
getting yourself
Raimi,
into,
yeah,
I recommend definitely seeing this.
I would recommend this to people who are 100% aware of Sam Raimi and just like
100%.
the absurdity. It's on another level. It's very wild. Yeah. It's only an hour and 20 minutes, but it felt so much longer.
It felt so much
Because
longer.
literally like 20 minutes of that is the car chase scene. Oh, God.
It felt longer, but at the same time, didn't really mind it.
No. I mean,
Which is a good thing.
you're not bored because there's always shit happening.
There's something happening.
Yeah. It's not a Terrence Malick film.
No, absolutely not.
Oh, God.
Before we move on, this podcast is surprisingly sponsored by Rogers Rhythm Reads. Dylan, you're a music man, right? Of the Hugh Jackman variety. Did you know that about 14 billion people during the pandemic got into music?
I was one of them. I bought into Rogers Rhythm Reads. I bought stock in the company because I found it to be... It's a product I think every musician should own. But I won't tell you about it because it's very secretive.
Well, you mean, like, with all those people who've gotten into music, right? You're going to need music accessories.
Yeah. And
everything from amps to, of course, reeds.
And
Rogers Rhythm Reads will have them.
Call Roger at 416-682-3521.
Or text 500 rhythm, and you'll get a 5% discount.
Yeah. If you spend $100 before tax.
That's Rogers Rhythm Reads. Thank you for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. On to the next movie. All right. The second movie we watched, it's either called Tammy and the T-Rex, or Tanny and the T-Rex, or Timmy and the T-Rex.
Timmy and the T-Rex, Tanya. The DVD, the case says Tammy. The IMDb page, the Wikipedia page, Denise Richards' IMDb, everything says Tammy. But the credits in the film say Denise Richards as Tanny. And even the credits at the end of the movie say Tanny.
Even the opening, the title it says Tanny.
Tanny and the T-Rex. I assume that to be...
I believe it's called Denise Richards and the T-Rex because really, she wasn't really acting as some other character other than Denise Richards.
Yeah. It's essentially just Denise Richards and the T-Rex.
Which I think makes for a far more interesting film.
Oh, it's endlessly entertaining. It's lots of fun.
So, for anyone who hasn't really heard of this movie, because I think this is like one of those ones that's kind of known for, like, you know, being lesser known, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's known as like a cult film. Like people.
Yes, this is definitely like a well-known-ish cult film.
Yeah, I think originally, like the production history behind the film is a guy had called up the director and he was like, "Yeah, I've got this robot. It's for theme parks or golf courses or something. I'm sending it down in a couple weeks. Do you want to use it for a movie?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, sure." So he wrote the movie in basically a week because he had this animatronic and like, are you going to pass it up? You get one chance to shoot with a giant robot dinosaur. So that's how the movie came to be. I lost track of where I was going with this.
Surprisingly, not made by Roger Corman.
No, Roger Corman didn't have his hand in it at all. Oh, sorry, I think they put it out on DVD or VHS way back in the day because it's from 1994. Mm-hmm. And I think it found its home on rental shelves, and that's where it became part of like the cult. People have seen the case. Not many.
It has a T-Rex in it.
Yeah, it's Denise Richards and Paul Walker, and the guy who played Bernie from My Weekend at Bernie's,
and the kid from Children of the Corn.
Yeah, he's in it too, and Buck Flower as well. Buck Flower plays Norville, but
Ken Carpenter, brother.
Karen Carpenter, but. Yeah, it's just one of those movies. It wasn't really put out widely. I first saw it when it was on Shudder, and I watched it before work. Really enjoyed it. I was laughing hysterically at it because it was just ridiculous. And then Vinegar Syndrome said, "Hey, our first 4K release is going to be Tammy and the T-Rex," and I was like, "I have to grab this."
I personally first heard of it because it's like there was like a good moment on the internet where like a lot of like critics who looked at kind of these movies, internet reviewers, talked about it at some point. So
it feels like it's one of those movies where you get somebody like the Nostalgia Critic or the Cinema Star and whatnot. They talk about it because it's like this. It's in their wheelhouse. It's like obviously they would know about it, but then once they bring it to the fourth month, everybody's talking about it. It's suddenly a flash in the pan. It's really.
I will say this also about it because I recall like hearing was always like a bad movie. I'm like, this is fucking great.
Oh yeah, it's a well made movie in the sense that it's got its
it is incredibly well made.
It like the dinosaur animatronic isn't some cheap piece of crap. It's like thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment and whatnot. And because I think it's well made, they spent a lot of money on the gore effects and the actors because the guy just let the director borrow the animatronic. He was like, do you want to use it until I have to send it away? So they didn't have to pay for it, so that also saved them a ton of money.
That should also be noted. If you're going to watch this, I think you were just saying it's only the Vinegar Syndrome copy that has like the gore in it.
Yeah.
Does Shudder's version have it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's how I
watch it on Shudder, because like the gore effects, which only really happen it's like very early in the film.
Yeah,
fucking great.
After like the second act, and there's the death of the mad scientist at the end of the movie. There's no gore to speak of. There's the party scene, and there's
when he escapes from the warehouse.
Yeah,
which has some really great shit there.
Oh, it's endlessly funny. I just remember like I was laughing really really hard at this movie. And because originally I think they shot with all the gore intact and then they distributed it for television under like a PG-13.
Which makes sense.
Because there's a handful of F-bombs, there's no nudity, there's some gore.
There's a striptease at the end.
There's a striptease at the end, yeah. But the PG-13, like the non-gore cut was, I think, the most circulated of the cuts.
I get definitely, like, we were watching this and I mentioned like there's almost like a secret theme where it's like movies that kind of have like a feel like it's meant for like a younger audience, but it's definitely geared towards an older audience.
Yeah, because
of its content.
I've got my case on the cover they've got the gore on it, so they've got the dude's head on the thing, and he's carrying the bully, and there's the headless corpse, but on the reverse of it, you've got the standard...
Oh, without anything but the T-Rex and Denise Richards.
So if you were to see that Tammy and the T-Rex, you'd think that was like one of those early 90s, late 80s, like rom-com.
Something
like,
we would have probably grew up watching
like
randomly.
Mannequin, kind of, yeah.
Next up on Teletoon.
Yeah, the PG-13 cut of Tammy and the T-Rex.
Disney Channel presents.
Not realizing that there's a ton of... Well, not a ton of gore, but like it's one of those... When they show the gore, they don't just...
It is so good.
It is. It's really funny.
It's like what you expect from like a Friday the 13th movie, probably. Like that kind of level of like gore effects.
Yeah, it reminds me of Friday the 13th part 9? 9's Jason Goes to Hell, right? Yeah, because there's a scene where Jason punches like a waitress in the face, and her whole face caves in and goes into her throat, and it's very, very comedic. Obviously, at that point, it kind of reminded me of that. And we throw back to Sam Raimi, like you've got like the stop motion.
Fuck, that shit was funny.
Yeah, it's got that level of camp to it. Like, they know, they're just like, oh, should we make it really gory for the sake of, like, fun? It's not, like, mean-spirited, but it's...
Not at all. Like, this feels like it knows what kind of movie it's trying to be.
They're 100% aware, which...
Yeah. It's not like, they're second-guessing. It's like, no, they knew what they were doing.
Oh, yeah, it's not a movie anybody takes seriously. This isn't one somebody goes, Tammy the T-Rex, why isn't the Criterion doing something like this? It's completely self-aware. They realize the idea that putting a dead teenager's brain in the body of an animatronic dinosaur is...
I think we should probably explain the plot then.
Yeah.
So, the movie opens up at a school. We meet Denise Richards' character, whose name is... Tammy or Tanny,
however you want to,
and we meet Paul Walker's character, which is Michael.
Yep.
Along with a few others. I completely forgot what's his face's name.
Byron. Byron's the
one of the other great characters. In
Byron's this. He's great. We needed something white, not you, not just you.
So there's a bully that's like an old boyfriend of Denise Richards, and like he's like very
possessive.
He's like
still not done with her, but she's moving on to Michael, and Michael and Billy don't like each other. They want their
and Billy wants Michael dead. So like after like Michael goes to sneak into Denise Richards' house, and they have like their moment together, and Billy finds out. Billy basically like takes them to an open zoo safari area,
like a wild animal
and
park,
lets a lion just kind of eat him.
Yeah, he just lets him loose, and he's like, there you go. And then he's attacked by a lion, and then he's rushed to the hospital, and then out of nowhere...
And then, so meanwhile, there's this mad scientist being played by the same actor who played Bernie in...
Terry Kisser.
Terry Kisser, thank you.
Terry Kisser or Kaiser. It's one S.
Mm-hmm. And this mad scientist has like a robotic T-Rex, but doesn't want a computer control it. He wants a human brain.
Yeah, I think he originally... They mentioned a few times, like, their investors will love it. They're capitalists. They want to. They want this... They see results, but it's not really confirmed whether or not he's making this animatronic
for his own personal goals.
Yeah, like...
World domination or some shit.
Yeah, like, he's going to make it to be like this next bioweapon or something like that. We're gonna drop off these T-Rex.
You don't know. You just know he really wants this shit to happen.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm gonna hook a brain up to the dinosaur, and it's no longer gonna be controlled by a computer, which is John F. Goff, I think, plays John F. Goff. No, that's Uncle Bob. I don't remember the kid's name.
Oh, the kid from The Children of the Corn?
Yeah, he plays
the assistant.
Oh! Cult filmmaker Stuart Raffil. He did The Ice Pirates and Mac and Me.
This is his movie? Holy shit.
That makes sense.
This is a huge step up from both those movies.
Yeah, this was the mad scientist Dr. Wachenstein extracts the brain and implants it into a giant robotic T-Rex. But he's a mad scientist that doesn't tell you who he's working for, if he's doing... He's clearly working for others because he mentions that he's got investors, but it's never fully stated why he's putting brains inside of animatronics.
So, through shenanigans, he's able to take Paul Walker's body and... that sounds really bad. Throws his brain into the animatronic.
Yep.
And from there, it's just like... Paul Walker, Saurus Rex over there, kind of just goes around, kills off the bullies at a party. It's a massacre there. He meets up with Denise Richards, and then they try to, like, flee the cops. And
after the party, he's killed all the bad guys and whatnot, and it's just... He only attacks the people that treated him like shit, and then he's just like, oh... He kidnaps her in the sense, and he does like the 2 words sounds like, and he
charades.
Yeah, the charades, and he lets Tammy realize that, oh, it's Michael, and then they're like, what are we gonna do? And then cops are like, hey, we got to figure out what caused all this, and the son was like, it's the dinosaur, and he's like, Byron, shut up, you're stupid.
And basically after like a bunch of like them being chased by the cops and everything, and they're trying to like, hey, let's find a new body for Paul Walker, and then they kill the scientist after like a whole shootout, and like he just lives as a brain in a jar until they find something for him.
The body of the dinosaur dies at the end, and she's keeping Paul
from
Walker.
Bullets. I want to say it's a robot dinosaur that dies from bullets.
It's very confusing because he's like he says, oh, I've got the tranquilizer gun. You'll just go in there and I will shoot it. And the guy goes, why do you need a tranquilizer gun if it's a robot? And he goes, he acts like as if like he's caught in a lie, but he's not lying because he actually has a fucking tranquilizer gun because he shoots it when a bird scares him. And they're dark. And like,
it doesn't make any sense because it's like, that's not going to stop the robot. It's the brain that's moving it. And unless you can pierce the metal with it.
They clearly...
I was 100% expecting, like, when the dinosaur, was laying there dead, he would kind of get up and everyone would be like, yay, he's still alive. And then, like, everyone gets a happy ending.
Yeah.
And he just lives as a dinosaur and just people are cool with it.
It just doesn't make any sense because...
I'd be down for Dinosaur at School.
Dinosaur? Yeah, Dinosaur at School. That's my boyfriend. Tabby, I was wondering if maybe you'd want to go to the dance. I don't know, but my boyfriend can beat up you.
That would be great. Just a scene at the prom. She's dancing with the fucking dinosaur.
Well, at the end of the movie, they mention, there's some skiers' bodies that were found, so they're still trying to find Michael a body to re-inhabit. But I would still really like the idea of maybe the dinosaur didn't die.
It's just like it's so ridiculous. You might as well go for like the corny thing where it's like, he's actually fine, and then you just kind of like you roll with it, where everyone's just like cool with it, just being a dinosaur that goes to school.
Yeah, and he's still got to get his education, and then they do like prom, and they've got to do an outside prom because
that would be fucking funny.
Yeah, Tammy and the T-rex too, and they get to do one. Because you can get, I'm pretty sure you can get Denise Richards and...
She's still around, right?
Yeah.
She's not doing anything, is she?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. We should do it.
Paul Walker, Terry Kaiser. I mean, he's definitely... Terry Kaiser. Oh, the kid who plays...
Children of Corn?
Yeah, Isaac, I think his name is.
Yes.
He's still around. I think he's doing horror conventions and whatnot. He's been to a few
I would imagine so.
Yeah, get a handful of people, and I'm pretty sure Stuart Rafil is still around as well.
Ice Pirates 2.
Ice Pirates 2.
We should watch Mac and Me and Ice Pirates.
Have a Stuart Rafil afternoon.
Just go through like all their movies.
They have an actor, Sean Whalen. Oh, Weasel. That's the guy that was pissing on the T-Rex. And then his guts
he dies though.
Yeah.
There's a few real so you mentioned like the stop motion moments, and those I fucking lost those because they're the most ridiculous part of this movie, which already is really ridiculous.
I completely forgot about there was a few scenes like when the dinosaur's walking towards the woman who's on the phone. You can clearly see it's superimposed.
It's superimposed, and like the way his walking animation reminds me of like those wind up toys where it's like the little feet like.
Oh yeah,
it reminded me of that. It's just like, this is ridiculous. It looked like a one of those like 3D assets you can just like buy and like plop into a film, like something like silly like that.
Something you'd find on like the Amazing Bulk or something like that. And it was just, I paid for this 3D asset, I got to use it. And there's a scene at the end where Denise Richards is riding the dinosaur
and you see them in the distance, and it is fucking...
Oh yeah, it's like superimposed
so
against the sunset.
Great.
Yeah, it's terrible, but it's wonderful. It's completely self-aware, but it's so much fun.
It is legitimately like a really fucking fun film.
Yeah, it's one of these ones where you're just like, it's genuinely like, I liked it. I don't understand, like, I think people back then, like, if you look on IMDb, I think it's got like a 4 out of 10 or something.
They're stupid. This movie is like,
it's not high art. It's literally made for fun. Some dude
it's in the same vein as like Frankenhooker. Like, you don't expect that to be like fucking artsy movie, like, the Sis and Kane and everything.
Yeah.
You see something called Tammy and the T-Rex or Frankenhooker or like, whatever else, and you're like, what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, it's a young girl's boyfriend gets put into a dinosaur. It's not high art. It's completely self-aware of it.
This isn't Shape of the Water. Like,
yeah. And people still like... people are like, yeah, it's bad, but it's self-referential. It's very aware of what
it's entertaining.
It's just fun.
Like I remember when I was in late high school, college era, and I was just like, I don't want to watch all these like stupid films. I gotta watch high art now because it's like, no, fuck that shit. Never stoop to high art level.
Yeah, look, I'm the first person to put on like the Apu trilogy and whatnot, but also at the same time, beside my Apu trilogy, I've got Phantom from 10,000 Leagues on the shelf and whatnot. You can't have, it can't all be like French art house films. You gotta throw a
Sometimes you just want to watch Phantom in the Paradise.
Yeah.
the Paradise of the Phantom or whatever.
The Phantom of the Paradise, yeah. You sometimes you just gotta have one of those cheesy movies on the shelf, and this is a perfect cheesy movie.
I love cheesy movies, that we're kind of in this weird era, I would say, where like there are companies out there who are making it like intentionally. And I'm thinking like really bad ones, like the Asylum people or whatever, and it's just like, or the Sci-Fi Network, and it's just like, no, those are like the worst part of it. Like, if you kind of think of like a line, it's like you got them at one end, then you got like I don't know, fucking high art at the other end.
They're
Like,
trying to...
and you want to find that shit that's like just off the side to the middle.
Yeah, you want to find like the 80s stuff and the 90s thing, like stuff like
Or
the
things that like
and whatnot.
get it.
Yeah, they're completely aware of what they're doing, but not to the where, like this one was aware and it was very tongue in cheek. But you don't want to watch like the Asylum stuff because that's just,
Where like they,
it's self-indulgent.
Mhm.
It's overly abundant self-indulgence.
Yeah.
Which is annoying. It's not good. It's just like
they're not trying to make something fun and entertainingly interesting.
they're making it bad on purpose.
Yes.
These guys were just like, we're making a movie, we're going to have fun with it. And you could tell they were having fun with it. The
That's the
Asylum
huge
is-
difference. Like,
making
you can tell
bad
like when they're
camp on
having
purpose.
fun making something and when it's just like, it's a paycheck.
Yeah.
And-
it's like like Vine or TikTok. Like when people used to make Vines, they would record something happening and they would catch like this really funny moment. And it was, this part was genuinely funny. And then they would constantly try to make that funny happen again.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's falling flatter than a lead balloon.
Yes.
That's what the Asylum is.
Mhm.
This stuff is like, you can tell that they're just having fun. And
I
that's
mean,
the
the
point.
same thing with even Crimewave. It's like, at least you can tell like they were having fun. Well, somewhat, I would imagine. There's
Yeah.
some fun. I'm sure it was very stressful in it, but like at least it wasn't like there's a paycheck involved.
Yeah.
Or like, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of motivation, and that kind of separates, I think, like a lot of like movies that even if they're bad, they're still like fun to watch.
Yeah. And this one is definitely a fun watch. Because
You know,
it's just, it's...
Me and Chris have one that we really enjoyed, and it's Gem and the Holograms, and it's like, it's a bad movie, but you can tell some people had a lot of fun making this really shitty movie.
Yeah. Because they weren't setting out to make shit on purpose,
Mhm.
which is what the Asylum does. They were setting out to make a movie that turned out to be crap, but you could tell that they were having fun while doing it. The Asylum is literally just one of those companies that were making shit on purpose because people do the, oh man, have you seen that six-headed shark attack thing? And
Oh man, Titanic 2, Sherlock Holmes versus a dinosaur.
Oh
It's like,
yeah. Like here's Velocipaster, and he's a dinosaur, but he's also
that's
a
not-
pastor.
I don't think that's an Asylum film. I actually do have that.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, because the trailer actually looked halfway decent.
It's always the trailer.
It's always the trailer.
Yeah. They take the 2 minutes of good quality out of the movie, and
We'll watch it and we'll determine, I suppose.
I'm sure we'll make a mention of it.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. No, I think like there's just a lot of like really stupid, funny little bits. Like anytime like the T-Rex is just in the background.
Oh yeah.
Like at the funeral, it's just like you see him in the background. Like this is so fucking stupid.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good. There's no dry and dull moments. I think honestly, like the most boring.
The hand.
Yeah, like the most boring parts of the film were the ones when Michael was still alive. Because it was just like, oh yeah, we get it, it's teenage romance. So once Paul Walker bites it in the movie and becomes the dinosaur, the movie picks up pace and it immediately... it starts.
It's not to
getting
say
really
that
good.
like there isn't anything happening, but it's like the level between, you know, human Paul Walker and dinosaur Paul Walker.
The dinosaur is endlessly more entertaining,
It is
100%.
shit like is great.
They're pulling up the bodies in the morgue and leaning them out the window so you can look at and be like, oh, I don't want that body. And
It's not
whatnot.
even just with the dinosaur. It's like everything at that point just like bolsters up. Like the fucking like, you know, the assistant rolling up the squished body.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's a fucking like tent or something like that.
Oh yeah, it's like he's like a deflated like a
Blow up doll or something.
or a mattress. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're rolling it up after camping, and he's flat as board. Yeah, there's so many good moments just peppered in throughout. It's hard not to just find it endlessly entertaining. It's such a fun little film.
So definitely not recommended for No, I would highly recommend this.
Yeah, it's great. It's a lot of fun. I've seen it several times now, and like I forgot about the scene with her riding it away on the sunset, and I pick it up every once in a while and I'll rewatch it, and I always mention to people, and like they're just like, it's genuinely such a fun, stupid little movie. You gotta love it. It's fun. I like it.
The only people I can only imagine who wouldn't like this are like snooty fuckers
Yeah.
who aren't into it. Anyone else would probably be like, this is cheesy silliness.
Yeah, I only watch David Lynch films and Sajit Ray films and all these other like just take your head out of your ass and enjoy a movie about a teenage girl falling in love with her dead boyfriend who's now in a dinosaur. That's all it is.
So those were our 2 movies. Any closing thoughts on our first episode of this podcast that was hastily made?
Was shoddily slapped together.
Definitely not being recorded on the phone.
Yeah, no. We got 100%, thousands of dollars worth of...
We're definitely using those mics that we won at a fucking film festival. They're not still in a fucking box.
We should probably break those out at some point.
Oh, shit.
The only time we win prizes and we never use them.
I used the... No, I didn't use the keyboard that we won. Never mind. I think I tried to pawn it off of you and you didn't even want it.
Oh, was there a keyboard?
There was a keyboard that came with, like, the editing program that I use.
Oh.
Because it has all, like, the shortcut keys on it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I'm like, I don't want...
I remember that we
relearn all the keys on a keyboard.
Yeah, I remember that we won the some audio equipment and whatnot. But
Oh, yeah. They're somewhere around here. So thank you for listening. I was about to say thank you for watching, but that's maybe you watch this. That's really weird.
You can just put up a poster and just upload it to YouTube and just have it be audio in the background.
But yeah, thank you for listening to this. We don't know when the next one will be out. We don't even know when we'll record the next one. If I will say this, if I do figure out how to put a podcast onto podcast listening things, you potentially could be listening to this podcast a little earlier on our YouTube channel because that'd be much easier for me to upload it to.
Yeah.
That's just True Philosopher Films channel, YouTube.
You can check it out there.
Yeah. And thank you for listening. Rate, comment, subscribe, or whatever the fuck people do for podcasts.
Yeah, I don't even listen to podcasts, so...
Tell a friend, or don't.
Yeah. We don't care.
Bye.